But I feel like as Asian people, we just, again, we have to know that, all right, this is...
It's not a level playing field.
It's not, right? And people who look at us they're not going to look up in the dictionary American and see you and me as the photo of it. They're going to see most likely a gun-toting white guy with like maybe a biker or something like that and go, okay, that's what an American actually is.
Yeah.
And I don't even think of it as an argument that should we accept it or not.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. And we just need to understand, okay, that's where we are.
Yeah. The way I always put it is there's two Americas.
Yeah.
There's the America that is today, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And there's the America we believe in. Carlos Bulosan, right, the Filipino-American writer, said America is in the heart.
Yeah.
And I think we need both. Whenever I talk to people, whenever I talk to college groups or whoever, I always say we need to know both. We can never be so idealistic about America. We can never be so idealistic about the America we believe in that we forget how things actually are right now.
Yeah.
But also, I think it's important to not just resign ourselves to this is the way things are. It's out of our control. We just got to go along.
Right.
Like, if you're an activist, if you are hopeful in any way, you got to believe that things can change and become better than they are.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to ask you about, right?
Yeah.
Like, is it worth talking about making changes in the system? If we both agree it is what it is it worth spending so much mind share, time online, talking about, okay, why things are unfair versus, okay, these are the game. Let's go make our money. Let's go become the producers in Hollywood. Let's go donate to the both left and the right. Let's go buy up more businesses. Let's go buy up more land. And if that's the game, then let's play the capital game. Like, why do we put a glass ceiling on ourselves where we're always, I don't want to say complaining, but wasting time and efforts on trying to change a system that probably can't be changed?
Because sometimes it can be changed. So in November, I was in St. Louis at a conference, and I was talking to a friend. She's a labor organizer.
Yeah.
She does base building.
Yeah.
So what they've been doing for years is organizing communities in the Bay Area to fight against big oil. And they've won some victories. They've won victories at a municipal level, saying, holding these companies accountable for the effects of what they're doing, forcing them to pony up millions of dollars to benefit social services in their community because it's only fair. So honestly, I agree with you about the online shit. Like, if y'all think activism is getting mad online and getting other people mad, you're wrong. Now, if activism is getting people informed online so they go out and actually do something, it's still possible, man. And that's what I really believe in is, you know, I make all this social content to educate people, to inform people, and I hope it doesn't just stay online, but I hope it means the next time they run into someone, you know, the next time you walk into a Vietnamese nail salon, the next time you walk into a Cambodian donut shop, the next time you think about, you know, a community that's not yours.
Yeah.
You actually act a little different. If all it is just, if it just stays on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, it's useless.
But could activism and talking about racial topics that you and I both do, you know, could that create a more deeper divide in our country versus bring us more together? By calling out racism or calling out white people for whatever they do, could that even galvanize even people who weren't part of this battle and create racial lines that, you know, they have to stand aside, that they, you know, never really wanted to discuss or talk about? Where, you know, because I know a lot of white people who are thinking to themselves, you know, I'm not a racist, but I'm being painted as one now, and now that you're painting me as one, I have to defend myself, and that automatically creates people standing on different sides and resenting those who constantly bring up race as a deterrent to their betterment or something that they're made to make me feel guilty about all the time.
We're not going to move forward by erasing the past. Like, we gotta know, because that's honestly a lot of the problems that are going on right now are because people don't understand what's actually happened. People look at, Cambodian people and say, "Oh man, why are you all in gangs?" Like what's going on? That's because they don't understand the legacy of the Vietnam War, and the Khmer Rouge genocide. Or people look at black people, right, and say, "Oh man, why do you all live in the hood? Like, why can't you? It must be your fault."
Right.
Because they don't understand the Great Migration. They don't understand redlining. This is. Erasing history is never going to be the way forward. It's only going to be a way to stagnate.
Right.
With that said, I agree. We just need to understand history and know what happened. I don't blame white people. And if you look in my social content, I'm just presenting facts. I'm not going to point at a white dude and say, you need to do this right now.
Yeah.
What I will say is, hey, here's how different groups of people through American history have interacted. This is the ways that laws have benefited some and not benefited others. And because of that, there's inequality that actually, in my opinion, makes America worse. Not just morally, but economically.
Right.
Dude, if the studies have shown that when people have a certain level of income, they actually can produce more.
Yeah.
People having a certain, the larger a middle class is, the more economically resilient an entire country is. Because guess what? Those are people who are now able to spend on market sectors that if you're just scraping by, you are not spending money productively. You're not spending money in ways that stimulate innovation.
Right.
So, I'm for reparations. I was for it for, Japanese Americans, for it for communities that have paid into America and not been paid back.
Yeah.
But it's not the goal for me is never to guilt someone into being progressive. The goal is to say, look, this is what's happened. If you think that was wrong, there's ways people have proposed to make that right. Ways that could make it right. Not in a way that destroys the economy, but in a way that actually buoys it up.
All right, this is where you and I agree. Racism exists.
Yeah.
It is what it is, right? Races against Asians exist. It is what it is. But I feel like the only issue that I have is that we don't use that as an excuse to not move forward and better ourselves. To use that victimhood or that victim mindset of thinking, okay, the system's against me and this is why my outcome in life is what it is. Yeah, you can say that, but ultimately at the end of the day, when you're struggling and you can't buy toys for your kids, etc., you're going to be the one who suffers. So in that sense, understand that that's the game. Understand that that's where we live. And to be honest with you, that my parents understood that when they came as immigrants. They knew they were never going to be treated equally as a naturally born citizen here or a white person here. But they still looked at it as, all right, a land of opportunity, a place where, okay, that's fine. I'll take those disadvantages.
A land of opportunity, but not of equality.
Correct. And, we're not white. I get it.
We're not.
Okay? Yeah, exactly. We're not white. I get it. We have these disadvantages, and I'm not saying I'm okay with it, but I just don't want it to be an excuse for you and I not to be able to get ahead.
Yeah, and I honestly totally agree with that. There's a difference, and this is honestly something that I point out to my thought partners on the left a lot, is whenever we give people information, it needs to help them move forward instead of helping them sink deeper.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Because racism is a reality. It's a history. It lets us understand why things are the way they are.
Yeah.
But this is why we need therapy, man, because this is where a lot of it comes from. I think there are people who, and I want to be very careful, not most, but there's some people who weaponize victimhood. They use that and it becomes their identity.
Yeah.
But I think even more so, it's psychological, right? There's a lot of people who get so used. My academic mentor told me a story about one of his professors who, back in the 90s, back in the early 2000s, he was so embittered. And my mentor was like, damn, like, why are you like that? And then he said, after 20 years of being in higher education, of sitting in faculty meetings and sitting in administration meetings, he started to understand it. He was like, damn, that slow drip of for 20 years, I continue to be talked down to, and I'm a dean, and I'm being addressed as doctor instead of dean, and all these different things.
Yeah.
You start getting bitter. You start expecting it. You start getting punchy. You start getting traumatized.
Yeah.
And we need therapy because studies have shown, psychological research has shown that experiences of racial marginalization are traumatic. And what I mean by that is psychologically, they did studies on Filipino American Army vets. Yeah. And they said, it was Sikh American Army vets. And they said that there was a higher correlation to traumatic symptoms because of racial experiences than combat experiences.
Like racial PTSD?
Yeah. So literally, you go through your life and the baristas, like ignores you and talks to the other person. Or, the cop talks to the other person and takes their side. All those experiences actually have a greater scientific measurable correlation to traumatic symptoms than combat experience. And so I do think, I agree, sinking into victim mentality hurts everyone. And I think the answer isn't just for people to toughen up. Like that'll help for sure. That'll help. But the answer is therapy, is working through that, is having somebody with the tools to help guide you through, okay, these are all the things that have happened. They were wrong. Yeah. But here's how you reclaim your agency. Here's how you value yourself. Because a lot of that victim mentality is actually a symptom of trauma.